Welcome to Basic Brewing Radio for Thursday, January 14th, MMX. I'm James Spencer. Here at Basic Brewing Radio, we're all about home brewing. With this week, we unveil the mystery ingredients of the Iron Brewer competition going on near St. Louis with the Garage Brewers Society. Jeff Britton, president of the GBS, joins us to explain. Well, if you're new to home brewing and would like to get into the hobby for the first time, check out our website, basicbrewing.com, where you can find archives of our audio and video podcasts and our DVDs to walk you through basic and more advanced brewing techniques. And you can follow me on Twitter as usual. My username, Basic Brewing, all one word. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/basicbrewing.james. We have a Basic Brewing Radio and Basic Brewing Video page on Facebook. It's at facebook.com/basicbrewing. And you'll get notices when we post new shows and such if you become a fan there. Well, thanks again to everybody clicking on the Amazon.com associate link on our basicbrewing.com site. Whenever you think of Amazon, think of us and click on our associate link first. It won't cost you any extra, and you'll be helping us to bring you this show, and we appreciate your support. We also have associate links for Brew Your Own magazine and the American Homebrewers Association on our site, too. My 3 batches for the third BYO-BBR collaborative experiment are in the bottle. Where are yours? In this third experiment, we're testing the effects of full-volume extract brewing, partial-volume extract brewing, and adding extract late in a partial-volume boil. I finally had time to put up the data form for you to send us your results. You can find that at basicbrewing.com/experiment. And I'm looking forward to reading your results. Steve and I are planning to get together for a brewing session this Friday that we're wanting to record for Basic Brewing Video. Stay tuned to Twitter. We may be playing around with some live broadcasting via Ustream during the day. Should be a fun day. And we're going to play around with some homegrown cornmeal. I didn't grow it, but somebody who Steve knows did, and he got some from him. Before I forget again, I want to give a shout-out to a homebrew store in the UK that's now carrying our DVDs. They even have a handful of logbooks, too. easyhomebrew.co.uk. Those of you in the UK neck of the woods and nearby, check them out. I know postage across the pond is pretty expensive, so I hope that this will help. easyhomebrew.co.uk. Looking into the mailbag, the quest for solutions to oily peanut butter beer goes on. Chris from Fairfield, Connecticut writes in with another follow-up. Chris says, in further research towards this beer, I was able to find a company that sells powdered peanut butter. The company presses the peanut butter to reduce the oils and fat before packaging, and the product looks to have a moist powder consistency to it based on the webpage photos. I would think that some additional drying may be needed to once again reduce the remaining oils in the product as much as possible. The company also sells a version that has a high-quality cocoa added for a chocolate peanut butter powder for those looking for the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup beers. That sounds tasty. The company is Bell Plantation. You can find their website at bellplantation.com. Chris says one interesting note that is that the chocolate version of their product is out of stock. Perhaps there's been an onslaught of homebrewers gobbling up the merchandise, Chris says. Maybe we started something. John writes in with this. I've been brewing for about a year, and I'm getting ready to move to New Orleans near my father, so I decided to get him his own starter kit. Last night, we brewed his first batch, a true brew Belgian ale with candy sugar. This morning, I woke up to him cleaning the 11-foot ceiling above the fermenter. The airlock had blown off and shot foam on the wall and the 11-foot ceiling. The irony is that I was just telling him how blow-offs the night before and how I have never had it happen to me. John says there's a first for everything. Well, that'll teach you. That'll learn you to say something never happens to you, right? Hope that the taste of the homebrewed Belgian will help erase the memory of cleaning up the mess in your father's mind. I think it will. Now, the good news is now he's got a home brewing war story right out of the chute. So if he ever goes to the homebrew shop or a homebrew club meeting, he can say, well, let me tell you what happened to me. David from Lowell, Arkansas, which is not too far from here, writes in with a question. David says, I have a large brew pot and usually brew 10 gallons and then put them in separate carboys for primary fermentation. I often use different yeasts and sometimes dry hop one batch, which is fun to do. Next time, I'd like to brew 5 gallons of pale ale and then 5 gallons of porter. What would happen if I brew the pale ale, cool the wort, siphon 5 gallons into a carboy, and then bring the remaining 5 gallons back up to a boil with some specialty grains to make a porter? David says, I know you want to cool the wort quickly. What do you expect would happen if the wort is reheated? Well, David, this is an interesting puzzle question. I've never thought about this. If you've got 10 gallons of pale ale wort, you cool it down, then rack half of it into the fermenter. I suppose you wouldn't have a problem heating the remaining wort back up to steeping temperature, steeping the specialty grains to darken it up, and then boiling again for, say, 15 minutes to re-sanitize the wort after you put the grains in there. I suppose that would be technically feasible, but the one thing that worries me is the hopping of the beer. First off, I think that a pale ale wort would be too hoppy to use as a base for a porter, especially according to the style guidelines maybe. But when you're reboiling, you are going to lose a lot of the hop flavor and aroma, but you'd still have that pale ale bitterness. In fact, I guess you could argue that the bitterness would technically go up a little bit in theory, since you're continuing the hop utilization or the isomerization of those alpha acids, like I say, in theory. So I don't know. I'd be interested to know what happens if you do try it, David. Let me know, and maybe we can meet at the home brewery to sample it and talk about it. What do you think? Have you done such a thing? What do you think about it? If so, drop me a line at james@basicbrewing.com or use the contact form on basicbrewing.com. And please don't forget to tell us where you're from. Now, if you're a fan of the Reinheitsgebot or a stickler for traditional beer styles, this segment may not be for you. Just a little warning there. They're having a little bit of fun up in O'Fallon, Missouri, thanks to the inspiration of Jeff Britton and the Iron Chef program on Food Network. And I think they have the original Japanese version on the Learning Channel? No. Fine Living Channel. One of those channels. I talked to Jeff earlier this week about the ongoing competition. Unfortunately, we were using a dicey Skype connection, so you'll have to bear with that. But we had a fun chat. Well, Jeff Britton, welcome to Basic Brewing Radio.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Now, you are the president of the Garage Brewers Home Brewing Club, is that right?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Tell us about your club.
Well, we're up and coming. We're growing exponentially. We're based in O'Fallon, Missouri, which is about 30 minutes outside of St. Louis. We've got probably 50 regular active members, and I think our total list is somewhere around 125 members.
Ah. So it's a good, cozy group there.
Yeah, it's pretty good, man. We got a bunch of really good guys.
Now, tell us a bit about your personal brewing background.
Well, about 12, maybe 15 years ago, my wife decided that she was going to buy me a fantastic present, surprise me with something called Mr. Beer. Because I've always been kind of a fan of craft beers, drinking the wild and crazy stuff. You know, at least that's what a lot of my friends considered it back at the time. Started off drinking Schlafly Pale Ale, which is a microbrewery here in St. Louis, and so she'd surprise craft your beer kit and let me have a shot at making my own, which I did. I made 4 or 5 kits of it and realized this beer sucks. Kind of gave up on it for a while. But it was always eating at me. I'm like, I've had other people's homebrew, and it was always good, but this Mr. Beer just isn't. So started doing a little bit of research, ended up going out and buying an actual, $150 beginner's kit, probably 7 or 8 years ago, and the rest is history.
This contest that you've got going on, it's called the Garage Brewers Iron Brewer Contest.
It's kind of based off of the Iron Chef shows that you see on TV, on Food Network or whatever, in which the brewers are given a common ingredient and told, go make a beer. You got 1 month. So they have to do a little bit of research, find out what kind of beer they want to make. They have to brew the beer and then bring it to our follow-up monthly meeting using the mystery ingredient, which they found out about, at the meeting before. Then it's set up in like a bracket format. So we started off with 16 brewers, 8 matchups, and each matchup had a separate ingredient. They were all blind draw. Each matchup made a beer using those common ingredients. They brought them to the next month's meeting, and actually the members then try everybody's beer blindly. They don't know whose is which, and voted for whichever one they liked best. Winner moved on to the next round and got a brand new mystery ingredient.
So what was the response when you announced this contest?
Well, I just sent out an email to our members, just trying to drum up interest and see, it was kind of a wild hair I had one day at work, and wanted to see what I thought it was a great idea. I wanted to see somebody did it, and the feedback was really good. It filled up 16 guys fast. If I wanted to put a little more effort into it, I probably could have gone up to 32, but finding that many number of mystery ingredients is not easy to do without pissing off a lot of people, because they end up making bark flavored beer or whatever.
Now you're kind of flying in the face of the Reinheitsgebot here. I hope.
Oh, absolutely. There's no rules here. There's no Reinheitsgebot. What? It's yeah. In fact, there's not one beer that would be following that rule.
Now, does that bother you at all, or did you get any flack from any of your more purist club members that said, now wait a minute, you're messing with the sacred beverage here?
Absolutely not. No, none at all. These are homebrewers. I think half the reason a lot of people get into homebrew is to do this kind of stuff. Once you make the big jump into all grain, and most of our members are kegging their own beer and everything else. I don't know. I think it gets a little boring after a while to just trying to brew strictly to style. I like to mix it up a little bit, and I think a lot of other home brewers do as well. In the first round, we tried to go with some sort of a fermentable. The second round was all extracts. The first round was some sort of a fermentable, trying to show people, if the apocalypse comes and you're short on beer and you don't have any malt, well, hey, how about look what you can make with these iced oatmeal cookies. As long as you got yeast, you're golden.
So what would you now? I've got a T-shirt that says Reinheitsgebot is a 4-letter word, and I've gotten pushback from at least one listener out there who's said go easy basically on the Reinheitsgebot. If you want to put a bunch of chemicals or crap in your beer, well, that's fine, but I'm going to stick to the old tried and true ingredients, the traditional ingredients, and that Reinheitsgebot is the way I want to go. So what would you say to someone with that kind of outlook?
Lighten up. I got a lot of respect for Kubota as well. I've got it tattooed on my body, actually. I've got, the water, hops, and barley tattooed on my wrist, in kind of honor of it, I guess. But at the same time, it's homebrewing. It's supposed to be fun. Mm-hmm. You don't like it, don't drink it.
And at the same time, because it's homebrew, if you want to stick to the traditional ingredients, you can do that too.
Absolutely.
So what were the first round, 16 brewers paired off, so that means 8 initial mystery ingredients, right?
That's correct.
Do you remember what those were?
I do. We had tangerines, iced oatmeal cookies. We had frosted mini wheats, peaches and cream oatmeal, maple syrup, fruity pebbles, honey smacks, iced oatmeal cookies, like I had said before, and one more.
The Mexican brown sugar.
Yes, piloncillo, however the heck it's pronounced. But yes, Mexican brown sugar is what it is.
So what was the reaction when they were unveiled?
For the most part, a lot of people were excited. Some guys not so much, particularly the guys that got the maple syrup. Half because nobody wants to make a maple syrup flavored beer, and half because I bought the wrong stuff and bought sugar-free, full of preservatives, which certainly makes getting any sort of fermentation difficult. But they were both good guys. They agreed to go out and buy their own, agreed on the brand and amount and everything else.
Now, I've had a couple of delicious maple syrup beers, so, don't be too prejudiced against the maple syrup.
No, not at all. I personally have as well. Some of them I even liked. I'm just saying the two guys that actually drew maple syrup weren't exactly crazy about it.
Now, let's kind of go through the ingredients and talk about what beers were made out of some of these. And I would imagine that the first one off the list would be iced oatmeal cookies. What would you do how would you treat them, and what style did they go for?
I tell you what, the iced oatmeal cookies beer was by far and away the highlight of the first round. Not even close. One of our brewers, Tim Hayes, actually put the cookies in the mash, full. It was an entire package of iced oatmeal cookies. He put them in a hot bag and threw them in the mash. And I tell you, he got an absolutely incredible result out of it. If memory serves, he did an amber ale or a brown. No, I think it was a brown. And you could taste the icing in this. I mean, it was just unbelievable. It's a great, great beer. He did a really fantastic job on it.
Wow. And what other of the results were your favorites out of it?
Both of the brown sugar beers were very good, I thought. And actually, I thought both of the maple syrup beers, I thought both of those guys did a really good job. Some of the other guys had a bit of a rough go, like the two guys that drew Fruity Pebbles. The rule in the first round was you had to use all of the ingredient that was given to you. I believe both beers turned out kind of a pink color and tasted really, really strong of Fruity Pebbles. They were a little rough on the palate. Neither one of them were bad. I don't think either guy ended up dumping their beer. Imagine Liney Kugel Sunset Wheat on steroids. It's kind of the result that you got.
Now, where did they put the Fruity Pebbles?
I believe both guys ended up putting it in the secondary and basically using them as a dry hop.
See, I made a beer with Frankenberry, a pound of Frankenberry in the mash.
Yeah. And
once it got through the 60-minute boil, there was no Frankenberry-ness left.
Yep. So that was guys are trying to avoid that because the rule of the competition, while you're not judging the style, what you are judging for is how well the mystery ingredient comes through. The object is to get a nice balance between a really good beer as well as tasting the mystery ingredient. So if on a scale of 1 to 10, if you've got a beer that ranks a 10, but you can't taste the mystery ingredient at all, it's going to lose to a beer that maybe ranks a 7, but ranks a 5 on the mystery ingredient. If the mystery ingredient comes through, and you get a nice balance, I mean, that was all part of the game,
So what does a score sheet look like?
There is no score sheet. Basically, the idea is we'll set up all the beers in a row, and we'll have two beers sitting next to each other. We'll say, this is a tangerine blonde, and this is a tangerine cream. Keeping in mind the spirit of the game, that nice balance you're supposed to get, which one do you like better? And the guys vote for whichever one they want. They don't know which brewer made either beer. They don't know the scores of any beer. I'm standing on the other side of the table. I got my clipboard there, and they'll vote, I like the blonde better. So I'll put a hash mark next to the blonde and tally them up at the end. Majority rules.
Huh. So were there any that were kind of disasters?
In the second round, depending on who you asked, yes. There were not a lot of people that are fans of anise or peppermint, for that matter. I personally really like both of them, especially the peppermint stout. Kent did a peppermint stout that turned out really good, and both anises were great. But I'm a black licorice fan, so.
Yeah, that's a polarizing flavor there. You either love licorice or you hate it.
One of our members has, it's either a son or a son-in-law, I don't remember which, is studying filmmaking in school, and he is videotaping the whole event for us from beginning to end. And then he's going to edit it down to one or two videos that hopefully we'll put up on YouTube, documenting the entire competition.
And I would imagine there's some priceless expressions on people's faces at various times.
Precisely, particularly when they first tried the anise beers.
So the second round was more kind of focused in that it was extracts of flavorings. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, it was 3 extracts and agave syrup was the other one, like an agave nectar sweetener. The 3 extracts were anise, peppermint extract, and coconut extract. Were
they given, again, an equal amount, and did they have to use all of it, or was there more flexibility this time?
No. In the second round, it was much more flexible. They were all given the same amount and said, use whatever you want. Well, you make the best beer that you can. Here's what it's supposed to taste like. If you want to use a couple of drops, use a couple of drops. If you want to go out and buy more, go out and buy more. It's all on you. So there's a lot more freedom in both the second and third rounds for the Brewers than what there was in the first.
So we had a coconut stout and a coconut cream. And I'm reading from garagebrewers.com if you want to read along, listeners. And from an agave nectar, we had an agave amber wheat, and were they both?
I believe they were both wheats.
Yeah, an agave,
but one was an amber wheat,
right? And just an amber wheat, or an agave wheat,
right?
But you didn't get the tequila-ness that you expected.
No, not at all. It was more of just a sweetness as opposed to any sort of a tequila flavor. A lot of people were worried it was going to come across as, tequila did back in the day. Mm-hmm. But no, not at all. It didn't have that salty tequila-ish flavor at all.
Now, how did everybody add these to the secondary, or how did they treat them?
I believe all 3 of the extract brewers did, the coconut, the anise, and the peppermint guys. The agave nectar, I think both of those guys had to add that to the primary due to a further active fermentation because it's almost pure sugar that they were putting in there.
Mm-hmm. What were of the second round? What were your favorites?
I really liked the coconut cream. That was probably the biggest surprise for me because I think a cream might have been the last style I would have done when using coconut extract, but it really worked well. The whole coconut category, actually, Jim Liebig ended up winning that one with a coconut stout that was really, really good. But Andrew did a coconut cream that was surprisingly good. I would have never thought to put coconut into a cream beer. But he did, and it worked out fantastic. the anise. I also really like both anise beers, but in particular, Brian did an English old ale using anise that turned out really fantastic as well.
Huh. And in a short period for an old ale, or was it a big beer?
Yeah, I believe it was. Geez, I wish I had a little more information on here. But it actually might have just been an English ale. Maybe I'm getting confused here because I don't think he could have finished out an old ale in a month.
Yeah. I mean, and I assume that were all these kegged?
Yes.
So you have a month to from meeting to meeting essentially, and you unveil the ingredients and say go, and then the next meeting a month later they got to have their finished product.
Correct.
So now we're down to the final four, and one of the finalists is Kent Critchell, who approached me via Facebook. And you told me that he also approached John Palmer and Jamil Zainasheff looking for suggestions using tarragon.
Correct.
I thought, well, first of all, I'm not real familiar with tarragon, so I had to kind of look it up, and I saw the word anise mentioned on there in the description, and I thought dark beer. I thought maybe a porter or a stout or some darker beer to go with, to pair the anise flavors along with kind of the darker, roastier tastes from from those styles. But he went with a tarragon blonde ale.
Yeah, that's news to me. He didn't tell me what he was going to go with. He sent me a couple of emails, forwarded them on to me that. The one that he sent to you, and the one that he sent to John Palmer, I believe, and Jamil, and saying, "Hey, I'm really going for it this time. I really want to win this." And they all said, do a porter or a stout or some sort of a dark beer. So for him to go with a blonde, it's kind of surprising to me.
Well, you were surprised by the coconut cream, so
I was, and it worked out great. So I wish Kent all the best.
So the other ingredient, we have tarragon and we have black pepper.
Right.
Now, black pepper, that's an interesting. Of course, before I had a chili pepper beer, I never would have thought that they would be as tasty as they are. So maybe a black pepper beer would surprise me.
Well, I tried to make it pretty difficult for this. I mean, it's a Final Four. I want to challenge these guys, and not give them something basic like coconut or something that would be used normally. So yeah, I basically went up to our local supermarket and was looking through the spices, and these are the two that I decided to go with. Now, one guy that drew the black pepper, he was all kinds of excited. He's like, I already know what I'm going to make. I got a great recipe for it. I'm good.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't know what it is either, but I think he's going to aim for a smoked beer, but I'm not positive. Whereas the other guy, the one that he was going up against, like, I have no idea what the hell I'm going to make here. So I haven't spoken to either one of them since to know what they tried to do, but I look forward to trying them, that's for sure.
Now, who are our finalists or the Final Four, and who's using what?
The Final Four are with the black pepper. A guy named Tim Hayes is going up against Jim Liebig. Tim won with his agave amber wheat, and Jim is the guy that made the coconut stout that I thought was just an outstanding beer. The other side of the bracket is Brian Klauser, who anybody that competes regularly in the Midwest probably knows his name. He's a fantastic brewer that brews a lot for comps and does very, very well for himself. And he is going up against Kent with Tarragon.
Wow. And we'll find out next Tuesday?
Yeah, a week from tomorrow.
Wow, that's exciting. And we can go to garagebrewers.com and see the results.
That's correct. Yeah, garagebrewers.com. I should have the results up within a couple of days of the final voting.
Now, I know you can't tip your hat too much mystery ingredient for the final round. But what were some inspirations that you're looking for as far as I assume you're going to make it tough?
That's the goal. I want to really, really challenge the guys in the finals. Thinking about changing up the rules a little bit, putting a little more restrictions on them, and basically, without trying to give away too much, make them work for their fermentables. How's that?
So maybe some kind of an extra, maybe a cereal mash or something, or
you're on the same page. Yep, you were on
it. We probably shouldn't say much more. We don't want to give too much of a leg up.
Well, when is this going to be posted?
This is going to be this week, this Wednesday.
Oh, all right. Yeah, got to be a little quiet then.
Well, this I got to admit that after I was a big fan of the original Iron Chef show, the Japanese version, and I like the American version too. But there's something about the original Japanese version that the funky stuff that they do. Like, for instance, they did a show based on American Thanksgiving where the secret ingredient was turkey. Now, there's not too much you can do with a turkey in an hour.
Sure.
So they came out. One of the chefs came out with a turkey sashimi, which was raw turkey essentially,
right?
Maybe on some rice. So I wanted to see the follow-up show of what happened, a couple days later when the food poisoning hit.
That's the first thing that I was thinking too. That sounds dangerous as hell.
So it's that kind of thing that I like, the wacky, off-the-wall, Japanese stuff, where they're pulling out squid eyeballs and things like that. And but all that to say that I thought that this would be a wonderful concept, but I had no idea of how to work it into any kind of either a show or a contest. And what you've done here is just perfect, I think.
Well, thank you very much. It's like I said, it just kind of came to me one day sitting at work. I was trying to figure out a way to get people interested and bring a little attention to the club, and this was just kind of what came to mind. And figured out what kind of reception I've gotten. Reception's been unreal. I mean, people seem to really like it.
Yeah, I think it's great. It sparks the creativity, and it's challenging for home brewers because you're right. I mean, home brewers are tinkerers, and they want to go out there. Most of them, at least the ones that I know, want to try some wacky stuff every now and then, and just see what happens.
Exactly, just kind of forced in their hand. You say, "Hey, you want to try something new? Well, now you have to. You signed up for it. Here's your honey smacks. Go to work."
I wish I had a nickel for every time I've heard that.
It puts them on the spot a little bit. It's here's this crazy ingredient that you've never thought about making a beer with before. Now go make a beer, and all your friends are going to judge you on it.
Now, I assume you're going to do this next year. Is there anything that you would change if you were? I mean, when you're doing it again? Are you thinking about changes or modifications? Or if someone were to come to you and say, hey, we want to do this Iron Brewer thing too, what would you say to help them along?
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind would be the rule in round one where it was required that everybody had to use the full amount of the mystery ingredient. I would take that away, hands down. It really kind of forced people into making some pretty extreme beers that just didn't need to be. They probably could have ended up with a lot better, a lot more well-rounded beers if they were able to control the amount that they used. That would be the first thing. Aside from that's it. I think the competition is going pretty well. We've actually ended up with some really, really good beers, especially some crazy beers. I mean, I can't say enough good about Tim's iced oatmeal cookie beer. That actually ended up winning a gold medal at the Happy Holidays homebrew competition.
Oh, wow. Can we look forward to the recipes being posted somewhere?
Tim said that he would share that one. So, yeah, I mean, anybody that wants to try anything, I'd say, send an email to me or sign up on the forum and throw a post out there. I mean, the guys in GBS are really, really laid back. They're all a bunch of really good guys and have no problem sharing it all. Tim said he'd throw that oatmeal cookie recipe up. In fact, it might already be there.
Well, I'd love to see it. And I'd love to try it.
He's got pictures of the mash. I know that. Anybody that's looking to try something new and just wants to experiment a little bit, look for this recipe and try making the beer. I can't say enough good about it. I hate saying that over and over and over again, but it was really, really good.
Well, excellent. Well, good luck to all the participants or all the final four, and I appreciate your taking time. This has been fun, and once again, we'll plug the URL garagebrewers.com for the Garage Brewer Society. Go and check them out and root for your favorite secret ingredient. I appreciate it, Jeff.
Hey, it's no problem, James. It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks to Jeff for the fun interview, and thanks to Kent Critchell for the tip through Facebook. And good luck to Kent and all the rest of the Final Four next week. I'm looking forward to hearing more as that contest goes on. If you have brewing questions, show suggestions, or just want to say howdy, write to james@basicbrewing.com or just fill out the contact form on basicbrewing.com. And please don't forget to tell us where you're from. Our 2010 Brewers logbooks, still available. Plenty of 2010 left for you to document in your new logbook. We've also got our Reinheitsgebot is a 4-letter word shirt on our shop as well. Check out our homebrewing DVDs while you're there. Introduction to Extract Home Brewing and Stepping into All Grain, Low-Tech Lagering and Decoction Mashing, and Introduction to Wine Kits as well. And if you shop on our site, we've got combo deals, and you can see a listing of the fine folks across the country and around the world, I guess, who sell our DVDs on basicbrewing.com, including easyhomebrew.co.uk. And if there isn't a vendor in your area, you can order them online in our online shop at basicbrewingshop.com. Thanks to everybody who's continued to click on our Amazon.com link. We appreciate the support. Our featured products this week that were purchased through the link are Charmed Knits, projects for fans of Harry Potter, and AAGPM 2628, horizontal/vertical/reversible/erasable dated wall planner 24x36. That has got to be the most versatile dated wall planner that I've ever heard about. Thanks again, everybody. And remember, I can't tell who bought what, so no worries there. Just click on the Amazon.com logo on our site the next time you feel like Amazon shopping, and we do appreciate your support greatly. Also got an email from Keith, by the way, on that subject. He says you may want to mention that school's starting again after the Christmas break. All your college student listeners should use your Amazon link to buy books. They'll save money over using a bookstore and support their favorite podcast. Thanks, Keith. Even if we're not your favorite podcast, you can still buy your books through us if we're your second or third, Also, don't forget that you can also join the Homebrewers Association, American Homebrewers Association, through the associate link, and also subscribe to Brew Your Own magazine. That's all until next week. Until then, thanks for listening. I'm James Spencer. Production help for Basic Brewing Radio and our website is provided by Kelly Dodson. Basic Brewing Radio is a production of Active Voicing. We'll talk to you next time, everybody. So long.